Well, after the first movie came out, I really enjoyed it, and before that I had resisted very hard reading the books because I thought it was just a phenomenon and I didn't want to be just another bandwagon person. I kind of blew it all off. But after the movie I thought, well, that was a really good movie. I'm really interested in what that was. So I picked up the first book at a local bookstore and I read it in 2 days. And then I was obsessed and immediately went out and got the second book, and then went out and got the third book, and then went out and got the fourth book, and then I was very sad because the fifth book wasn't out. So I did what any normal person would do. I went online to try and figure out when the fifth book was going to come out. And that was when I discovered this whole thing called fandom, and that there were other people who are as obsessed as I was but were active about it. I discovered fan fiction and fan communities and all of that, and nobody knew when book 5 was coming out, so I'd better learn to content myself with the fact that we were living in between this period. But hopefully it would be sometime soon, just nobody knew any info. When the 7th book was about to come out, there was a convention in New Orleans called Phoenix Rising, and I went to Phoenix Rising, and it was a blast hanging out with that many friends and people, and just the emotion and the energy before the book was coming out and the anticipation of it. And I thought, I really need this in my everyday life. I'll look and see if there's a meetup group. And I checked and I checked and I checked, and Dallas does not have a Harry Potter meetup group. Hasn't for a while. And I kept waiting and I kept looking, and finally I got tired of it and I said, okay, fine, I'll start a meetup group if nobody will start one. And within, I want to say 3 days, we had 30 people already in our group. And our first meetup was a week after I started it. We did in fact have 30 people come to that. 2 years later, we just celebrated our 2nd anniversary, and we have 170 people in our group. And we're very active. We do things twice a month. We have parties, we have great book discussions, we play games, we do workshops. We've had cosplay days where we go out and take pictures. Of course, we had a blast when HPF decided to have a conference in Dallas, and so a lot of our HPDFW people kind of took over the conference a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. Probably at Lumos. Looking back at those pictures, they're horribly bad and quite embarrassing, but I love photography. I've always loved photography. When I was in school, even in middle school, I was always that kid who had the camera with them and accused of living behind the camera. So it's always been something that I love, and it was natural to translate it into the Harry Potter world and take pictures. But I was lucky enough that with Portis, some of the people who are in HPF saw the pictures that I had taken at Prophecy the previous year, and they said, we need an official photographer. Would you mind doing this? And I said, of course I will, and leapt on it. And it was just so much fun. It lets you see so much of the convention in different ways, and I like capturing moments with the photography. I think that's the most important thing to me, is having that little moment captured for somebody to see forever. So I love just, going up and taking pictures, candid pictures of people, talking and relating. And I know that later people are going online and they're like, oh, look at this picture I found of me, isn't this cool? My typical picture is between 3 and 5 megs. So if you wanted, you could print like an 11 by 16 photo of yourself, huge, in your costume or with your friends. And so that's one of the reasons that we use Flickr, because at least the account settings I use, anybody can go in and download the original size, take it to any Photoshop and get it printed, or do what they would like with it, whether it's digital scrapbooking or real scrapbooking or just a photo album. And I actually don't have a favorite character. I love so many of them. I love almost every single character J.K. Rowling's created, with the exception of Umbridge, who annoys the heck out of me.